Good afternoon, folks. Today's topic A is about pandemic brain. Okay. Now I've wrote a little narrative for you for today's presentation. The narrative, the title is The Year We Forgot How to Decide. Talks about pandemic brain. Okay. Here is a full narrative essay draft. Scene-driven, reflective, and grounded in the science you summarized. It's written in your preferred style. Emotional, resonance, polished, and policy aware. Guided links are woven in so you can expand any thread you want to develop further. Okay, guys. Title is The Year We Forgot How to Decide. And remember what I said. It's about COVID. It's about pandemic brain. Okay, here we go. The first time I noticed it, I was standing in the central aisle. A wall of boxes, bright, familiar, absurdly cheerful. Stared back at me, and I could not choose a single one. I wasn't sad, wasn't overwhelmed. I wasn't even thinking. I was simply stalled, as if someone had unplugged the part of my mind that knew how to move from one option to the next. Later, I would learn that this small moment, this quiet, private stutter in the machinery of daily life was happening everywhere. People who once made decisions with ease were suddenly halted, hesitating over emails, dinner plans, weekend errands. Clinicians were hearing it, teachers were hearing it, families were living inside it. A kind of collective cognitive drag had settled over us, subtle but unmistakable. We called it many things: burnout brain, fog is exhaustion, but the term that stuck, what the one that captured both the intimacy and the scale of it, was pandemic brain. The word shrank and the mind followed. In those early months, the world contracted to the size of our homes. Routines dissolved, time lost its edges. The scaffolding that once held our days together, commutes to school, or commutes, school bells, office chatter, the small, predictable frictions of ordinary life fell away. Without it, the brain had to work harder to do even simple things. What I didn't know then was that this wasn't just psychological, it was biological. Studies would later show that chronic uncertainty and isolation elevated cortisol, disrupted sleep, and impaired the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for planning, prioritizing, and choosing. Imaging research revealed increased neuroinflammation even in people who never had COVID 19. Population level data suggested subtle shifts in cognitive aging. The brain, it turned out, had been living through a disaster too. But in real time, all I knew was that I was tired in a way that sleep didn't fix. My thoughts felt heavier, slower, as if wading through water. Decisions that once took seconds now stretched into minutes. I was alone. I wasn't alone. Indecision became a quiet national mood. Friends confessed they couldn't pick a movie. Colleagues started stared at emails they couldn't bring themselves to send. Patients described a strange new hesitation, not fear, not anxiety, but a kind of cognitive static. Indecision, I realized, was not a character flaw, it was a symptom. Chronic stress steals working memory. Neuroinflammation slows cognitive control. The loss of routine forces the brain to actively choose things it once did automatically. And so we found ourselves caught between two poles, impulsive choices made out of fatigue and decision paralysis born of depleted mental bandwidth. We were not broken, we were overloaded. The return of small self. As the world reopened, something unexpected happened. People didn't snap back to their old divisiveness. Instead, they moved cautiously, as if relearning the choreography of ordinary life. The brain, after all, does not recover on command. It recovers through repetition, safety, and time. I began rebuilding my own cognitive scaffolding in small ways. A weekly meal rotation, a preset morning routine, a rule that any decision taking more than 5 minutes needed a simpler frame. These weren't acts, they were accommodations, gentle ones for a mind that have been carrying too much for too long. And slowly the fog thinned. What the pandemic taught us about being human. The most surprising lesson of the pandemic brain is not that our minds faltered. It's that they adapted. They protected us. They conserved energy in a world that demanded consistent vigilance. The indecision, that fatigue, the fog, these were not failures. They were signals that humans are not built for unrelenting uncertainty. Signals that cognition is not separate from the world, but shaped by it. Signals that resilience is not the absence of strain, but the capacity to rebuild after it. And rebuild we have. A new kind of clarity. Now, when I find myself hesitating over a choice, a plan, a path, I no longer interpret it as weakness. I see it as a reminder of what we lived through and what our brains carried on our behalf. I see it as evidence of of a mind that endured, adapted, and is still healing. Pandemic brain is real, but so is recovery. And perhaps the most hopeful truth is this: the same neuroplasticity that made our minds vulnerable to stress is the very thing that allows them to grow back toward clarity. The brain remembers how to be decisive. It just needs the world. It just needs the world and us to give it space. Okay, guys, that is your A. I will be back on with B shortly. Give me a few, please, and I'll be back on with that for you. For now, Gator Wellness, take care, folks.